Hello and welcome to episode 100 of the What the Falk podcast. I don't want to hold you too long because I know you want to be listening to the episode, but I just wanted to drop in and say thanks very much to everyone who's listened to the podcast since I started it last March before lockdown. I think it's been a difficult year for all of us and I've thoroughly enjoyed doing it. So thanks very, very much to all the guests, to all the listeners, and to anyone that's been associated with it. It's been an absolute pleasure to do. And I hope that it continues to go on to episode 200 and 300 and 400. Thank you very much. Enjoy the episode.
Something strange in the neighborhood. Who's gonna call? Dean Whitehead! Something weird and who's gonna call? Dean Whitehead!
Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk podcast in association with Viber Goalkeeping. Today's guest needs little introduction. A former double player of the year at Sunderland, he captained the club and appeared over 200 times for us. To discuss his time at the Stadium of Light, welcome to the show, Dean Whitehead. Dean, how are you doing? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. You okay?
Yeah, same old. I think we were just sort of chatting off air there, just saying it's the same for everyone, I think, isn't it? It's just ploughing on and hopefully getting back to normality soon.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think everyone's kind of sick of the Zoom, sick of being in the house with the same people, talking to the same people, and the kids are at each other. And it's about time that we get back to a bit of normality.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think obviously we're here to talk about your time at Sunderland, but I will start off with sort of recent stuff. You left Shrewsbury in November, I think. What have you been up to since?
Not much really. Just it's a really good time actually to reflect in terms of the coaching and reflect on what we did well, what I did well, what we didn't do so well, what we could do differently. So it's been a good time in terms of reflection on different aspects of the way we worked. But like everybody else, it's so difficult to get to games at the moment. So difficult to have a little bit of outside influence a little bit, but it's difficult for everybody. And I can't wait to get the kids back to school and start getting to a few games, and hopefully an opportunity will come up where it'll be good for me.
I was going to ask about that because obviously you had your time at Huddersfield, where I believe you were involved with the academy. Then you went to Shrewsbury as the assistant. So I know a lot of managers, like such as Kevin Phillips, for example, have done the coaching and they feel like they're ready to move into management. Have you got one eye on that already, or are you still wanting to build a bit more experience?
I think a bit of both, really. I think that's obviously my ultimate goal is I do want to be a head coach, a manager, which I feel that I've got a decent idea of how I want to do it and how I see it. But like anything, it's opportunity. If a coaching one comes up before that, whether that be academy, whether that be involved in the first team, then I'd consider it. Which one comes first is I'm ready. I think I'm really enjoying my coaching. I'm on my pro license currently. We're looking forward to what the next step will be.
Now, believe it or not, I was reading, researching, should I say, obviously the time that you had at Sunderland, and I'm going to start by saying this, and it makes me feel quite old. So apologies in advance, but rewind back to 2004. It feels like yesterday, but it was actually knocking on for near enough 20 years ago, weirdly enough. But
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's how I feel, mate. Absolutely. I remember it clear as day because it was like my prime time for really going home and away with Sunderland. You'd had an outstanding season at Oxford. Your contract was running down, if I remember correctly, although there was a fee involved due to your age. A few clubs higher up the pyramid were looking at you. So how did the move to Sunderland come about?
Yeah, so, I decided pretty much in my own mind, didn't really tell anybody. The last year of my contract at Oxford, I decided that I wanted to see it out, and I knew that was risky at the time with injuries, and that's part of the game. But I just felt that was right for me. had an okay season. Nothing spectacular, but steady enough for a young player in the Football League at the time. And coming towards the end of the season, and Graham Ricks, who was in charge at the time when I did leave, he offered me a really good contract to stay there for 3-4 years. It's my hometown club. I was in my comfort zone. I could have sat there and had an easy life, really. But I didn't want that. I wanted a challenge. I wanted to see what I was capable of achieving, really. So I had a couple of options in the Championship, in League One, and I can't remember where I was on. I was on the way home from somewhere, and my phone goes, and it was Mick McCarthy. I had a good chat with him, and basically before I got home, the journey was only short. I said that's the place for me. That's the manager I want to play for. And although it was so far out of my comfort zone, because I wasn't that type of person who was really outgoing. Really, I was kind of shy. I kind of kept myself to myself. Didn't upset anybody anywhere. And I was going from one end of the country to the other, so that was a huge decision for me at the time. But that was the type of challenge I was after when I was thinking about seeing my contract out. And I think in the next day or two, I drove up to Sunderland, and that's where it all started.
Talking about Sunderland, I sometimes feel as a Sunderland fan I can be very biased, but I can understand the pull of the club without going too in depth in it, especially if you're coming from, I think what Oxford would have been as well. It was Division 3, I think at the time. Obviously, League 2 is its class now.
Yeah.
When it comes to Mick McCarthy, though, obviously Mick's been a guest on the show as well. I think we've had just about every Sunderland player that signed for Mick McCarthy on this, or at least played under him. He's a great guy. He's brilliant. I mean, character's fantastic, and obviously his record speaks for itself. He's doing great at Cardiff even now. But going back to like the first time you met, so face to face, what was it about him that convinced you that Sunderland was the right place and he was the right manager?
I think it's just his honesty and the way he talks to you. He really wants you at the club. He tells you why he wants you, what he see that was good in me, how I could develop and help the team. But I just think the really basics of man management skills in terms of straight down the line, honest as the day's long, and if you work hard for him and give everything you've got, you get so much back from him.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I can sort of say from my side in a totally different arena, he is as honest as they come, isn't he? Literally, I can imagine if you're a player, if you're not playing, you're going to know exactly why you're not playing.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. If you're not playing, he'll tell you why, and he'll give you, valid reasons. He'd probably back it up with video stuff. Very, very straight down the line. If you're not playing, this is why you're not playing. This is what you need to do.
With Mick and stuff like that as well, when it comes to his honesty and things like that, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like it's a rare breed from maybe some players I've spoken to previously, not just at Sunderland, everywhere. Is Mick kind of out of the ordinary with his level of honesty? Is he old school in that sense? Do you see that kind of breed of manager as much anymore outside of the Warnocks and things like that, maybe?
I'm not sure, to be honest, but it's something that obviously I'm going into coaching and hopefully management in the future, and I think it's huge for the players. Just it's very, very simple. On honesty with what he sees and what he wants, how he wants it done, and it's really, really basic. It's so powerful.
Yeah, I can imagine so, because I mean, his record everywhere he's been, pretty much, maybe apart from Cyprus, but I'm sure you let me away with that one, has been sort of spot on all across. Are you quite not surprised that he's doing such a good job at Cardiff at the moment?
His records speak for itself. He's got Sunderland promoted, Wolves, and he started unbelievably well at Cardiff, and he's very he knows exactly what he wants from his terms of his setup and his shape and how they want him to play. I'm sure every single player knows their roles and responsibilities, and it just gives them that confidence to go out and play within that structure.
Talking about obviously your first season, my memory's a little bit hazy, but I remember quite predominantly you didn't really get into the team until about October. When you did get in, it was actually on the wing. But once you got in the team, you never really looked back. So because it was a jump in tiers, what was it, or what would you say the biggest factors were in helping you transition basically into a top level championship footballer that was ready for the Premiership and so fast?
Yeah, it was a big jump, and I at the time of moving there, I didn't know whether I could even play in that league. I didn't know how I'd cope with it. I didn't know how I'd cope with the moving away from home, in a different dressing room, different environment. All these factors. I literally had no idea how I would cope. Because I'm not, like I said, I'm not the most outgoing person. Like Liam Lawrence come in at the same time, and Stevie Elliott. These were big characters, so they kind of got into the group a lot quicker than I did. I was kind of on the periphery a little bit. I didn't give too much away, and I didn't really give too much back to anybody at the time. Just kind of got in, got my work done, and kind of went home really, in terms of mixing with the group. Didn't really feel I'd settled obviously as quick as those two, just because of my character traits. But once I then got into the team, I felt that I had a little bit more respect from the group, that I could handle the league. I'm a decent enough player to play in the team, and I'd give everything every single day to do that. But like I say, I had a difficult start. I think I could come on a sub in the first game at Coventry.
Yeah.
Didn't play the next two, I don't think. I think I might have played at Plymouth. I think we got beat.
Yeah, we did.
And then after that, like you said, I think I played the next one, and then didn't really look back, and kind of grew into the group as the season kind of went on, really.
Do you remember your first goal? Remember who that came against?
Yeah, I think it was on Sky as well, Nick. I think Stevie Elliott might have put me through, and I kind of just got there before the keeper.
It was. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And kind of poked it past him.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, so that was a really good feeling.
How old were you when you came to Sunderland? 21, 22? Would I be right in saying that?
20, yeah, I think I was 21, yeah.
So,
I think.
No disrespect to maybe the players that the managers you'd played under at Oxford, but just going back to Mick McCarthy, looking back on your career now, where you've retired and you've gone on to coaching, how important was the influence of Mick McCarthy on your career that early on in it?
I think huge. I mean, huge. I mean, to be a big club like Sunderland, just coming out of the Premier League and taking a chance on, and it was a chance that that I would work out, that Liam would, that Danny Collins, Neil Collins, Stevie Elliott. He took a real punt on enthusiastic younger players with legs, and obviously Dave Bowman. He's got a lot. A lot of appreciation for that, because he did all the work behind the scenes. But huge influence. Have trust in young players, and I know obviously being in now as a coach and as assistant manager, your job's constantly on the line, and having had to slash the wage bill for however much money, I'm not sure, but you see a lot of the big hitters go, and still some big huge influences in the dressing room. And for us to walk in and give me the opportunity to to showcase myself at a club like Sunderland was, I owe a lot to him.
Talking about characters, and obviously you've mentioned McCarthy, but that side as well, when I look back, it was full of characters as well. Absolutely full of them. The likes of, obviously I've had Matt Piper on the show, who was pretty much, I think he retired and not too long afterwards. He didn't really get into the team due to his injuries.
Yeah.
But Kev Kyle, Danny Collins, obviously a great bloke as well. Who were like the biggest characters for you that you could sort of look up to as a younger player and learn stuff from at that point?
I think at the time when I moved to Sunderland, I think Gary Breen was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
In terms of taking us younger lads under his wing and looking after us, and all the stuff that senior pros do nowadays to make sure that that everything's okay. And because I was a little bit quieter, he kind of gravitated towards me a little bit to make sure I was all right and coping all right, and was comfortable with what I was doing. So, and then you've got the bigger characters, like your Jeff Whitley, Sean Thorntons, and Carl Robinson, Stephen Caldwell, Stephen Wright. Lots of big characters for the dressing room, and I was just a young player trying to find my way. You
mentioned a name there that totally triggered a memory in terms of Sean Thornton. I had Neil Collins on the show not too long ago. That obviously was an episode that came out just this week, and I asked him about Sean Thornton, and he just immediately laughed. Great player, probably in some ways a waste of talent, but what was Sean Thornton like on a day-to-day basis? Because if you were quite quiet, kept yourself to yourself, Sean Thornton was probably the antithesis of that, wasn't he? Probably the complete opposite.
Complete chalk and cheese in terms of character with Sean and me. But like you said, for me, complete waste of a talent, complete waste of so much ability, so much talent, because of all the other stuff that goes on with being at big clubs and earning good money. And I just feel like he had bundles more talent than I could ever imagine. But if you don't want to almost be obsessed with a game and work at your game every single day, then eventually you won't succeed. And unfortunately he didn't. Yes, he had great moments and some brilliant goals and some great times, but he could have been anything really if other things kind of slotted into place a little bit better for him.
Oh, he was a phenomenal player on his day, and to think how his career started, how it ended, where he went to, and in a sense, it's almost sad that when as a Sunderland fan, you mentioned Sean Thornton, that it's more about his character and the funny things and the rapping and things like that. Considering how much talent he had, it's a bit of a shame, because if he had, you look at the likes of, say, Andy Welsh, for example, went on to have a really decent career. And with all due respect to the likes of Andy Welsh, I'm just picking a name out of thin air. If a number of players had the talent, the natural ability of Sean Thornton with the work ethic of a lot of the players in that squad, he could have been some player, couldn't he?
Like I say, he could have been anything he wanted to be. He could have been, but unfortunately, certain different players, and he's not the only one. We've seen it a million times. That money and all the other sort of things that take over your life rather than football. But I'm sure he's got no regrets. He probably really enjoyed himself. He was a joker. He was, I would imagine he had a good time, but he could have been so much better, so much more. He could have given so much more. But each player takes different paths, and he was complete opposite to me.
Yeah. We've talked about how great Mick McCarthy is as a character and as a manager, but what's your funniest memory of Mick McCarthy?
It was more, to be honest, it's Ian Evans and Mick. They, when one would have a go at you, the other one would kind of try and loosen up the mood a little bit. So they were a bit yin and yang at times, but do you know what? My memory's not the best, to be honest. They worked really, really well together.
Yeah, and I think that's why they all stayed together, wasn't it? They've always, as far as I'm aware, more or less stayed together the whole career, give or take, I think 1 or 2 clubs. Talking about Taff Evans, do you think he was kind of almost like an unsung hero in the way that maybe Bobby Saxton was from the Peter Reid era? Because I think, naturally, as you probably heard on this podcast already, I've talked a lot about Mick McCarthy and what he brought to the club, but Taff Evans brought an awful lot as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Look, we know when we go out to training, it's all about working hard and being focused and all that sort of stuff. But Taff used to have a really, really good eye for knowing when to come in with something that might make the lads laugh, and his timing of these things were perfect. When the mood's a little bit low, when the lads are not quite at it, he'd come in with something just to lift the mood and lift the players, and did that constantly. And obviously Mick would do that if Taff went on a little bit of a rant. They just had that really, really good eye and a good relationship together to know when to step in. But yeah, he was excellent, especially for us younger boys.
Talking about the signings we made that season, you touched on it before, sort of yourself, Liam Lawrence, Stephen Elliott, Danny Collins, Neil Collins, all players that went on to do really well for Sunderland, really, really well. But I asked sort of Mick himself who he thought the best signing was that he made at Sunderland, and he said it was yourself. How big of a compliment is that?
Yeah, it's very nice. Look, all the lads that he brought in were players that never played at that level before, and he gave us an opportunity, and to be honest, we all took it, we all grasped it, we all worked as hard as we could, and for him to say that is it's very nice, because it's a team effort, and he's the man that enabled us to perform like we did.
When it comes to the team from your first season, obviously, I think looking back, especially now as a Sunderland fan, and it's meant with all due respect to the entire team there, but there was no huge names. There was a lot of players that were maybe coming towards the end of their career, and a lot of young, hungry players that bonded together and formed the nucleus of a team that basically Sunderland fans love because it worked its bollocks off, for want of a better phrase. Yeah. A lot of you seem to have kept in touch since. Was the team spirit that good that you could imagine still being friends sort of almost 20 years on?
Yeah, it was. It really was. We use it as a strength of ours. If you'd have looked probably at the start of the season, you looked at our squad, you're thinking, it's not great, doesn't look great on paper. Do well to probably finish in the top half of the league, maybe. But we had Mick assembled a squad that had a really good balance of senior players, good quality senior players, good characters, and a lot of young players that had everything to prove, had nothing to lose, everything to prove. And, we managed to form a squad and a togetherness and a team spirit that when we were behind, we just knew we had we just had this feeling that we'd come back with, come back and turn the game around. And it's really powerful nowadays that team spirit, fighting for each other. When one makes a mistake, the other one, someone else is there to cover, and that kind of just rolled on, and we got so much momentum in that season, and it proved a good one.
How pivotal was Marcus Stewart in that season? Because I think it's someone a lot of Sunderland fans have a lot of time for, but he's probably, in a way, someone that, unfortunately, people almost forget about because he was the ones that were in between the modern era and the Kevin Phillipses. But he had 3 really good seasons here. I think he was our top scorer that season. And I've heard he was fantastic in the dressing room. So just how important was Marcus Stewart to that first season?
So the first season, arguably probably the most important.
Yeah.
To score goals at championship level, it's not easy, and he was bagging goals for fun. Whether we'd get 1, 2, 3 chances, we knew if it dropped to Stewie that he'd put at least one in the net. And off the field, some character. got along with every single player, made every single player feel good. And, you know, he was a huge player for us in that season.
And then obviously Marcus Stewart, alongside a few of the players that we've mentioned, they went after we got promoted. Probably in hindsight, probably surprisingly so. And I think Mick even said on this podcast, he said that in hindsight, you probably wouldn't have spent even the money that he did, even though he was disappointed he didn't get more. But the squad changed an awful lot. Going from such a positive to such a low very quickly, when did you realise, sort of you individually, that the 15-point season as it ended up being probably wasn't going to work out for Sunderland? When did you start to realise that? How early on?
Probably, I think probably Christmas time, because you know, we had a lot of young players in there who just had their first proper season, really, at a big club, and achieved so much. And again, we was going into almost no man's land in terms of knowing whether we could handle the Premier League, what demands it puts on you. Did we have good enough players to help us through at that particular time? Which obviously proved that we didn't cope as a team and as individuals well enough. And obviously, you know what the Premier League's like. Any kind of error, you get punished. I mean, we didn't have too many hammer-ins, but you know, we always seemed to lose by a goal or two. But yeah, really difficult season, but a season that a lot of players, you know, me personally, have gained lots of experience from playing in the Premier League. Yes, it wasn't a nice experience at the time, but when we did eventually get back there, you know, we were much better equipped.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the chalk and cheese in a way from that season to the season when we went back up. I don't want to touch on that season too much, because I think, to be fair, out of all the time that you had at Sunderland, that was probably one of the only negatives in terms of a full season. But looking at the game that really sticks out for me is the Portsmouth home game. Obviously, you scored the penalty. We went 1-0 up, got half time, and then everything just crumbled. And there was the famous moment, or infamous moment, with Kelvin Davis and so on and so forth. What was it like to be in the stadium like that day? Because you've obviously played for Sunderland when the stadium has been absolutely bouncing, but that day it just felt like it went, I don't want to use the word toxic, because I think football fans have a right to say what they think when things are going wrong on the pitch, but it didn't feel like a nice place to be if you were a Sunderland Association Football Club that day. What are your memories of that Portsmouth game and how it kind of ended up being?
Yeah, obviously we got in front. And then obviously, I think it was 4-1 in the end.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously it was another experience for us, that being at a big club in the Premier League, if you don't perform and you don't get results, then, like say, supporters and fans and media, whoever, you know, they have their opinions to criticize anybody they want, and you have to become really strong mentally. You have to really try and stand firm and try and block things out as much as you can, because moments like that do wreck players' careers. But you have to understand and know how to deal with moments like that do come, and it wasn't nice. It didn't feel nice, but you know, you had so much good times. You have to take the good with the bad, and come out the other end, really.
I remember the season in general. There was very few players that I could absolutely hammer, because I think you touched on it before. We very rarely got stuffed, for want of a better word. It was one goal here, two goals there, and it was kind of, I think, just a lack of quality, maybe across the squad at the time. But out of all the players that came out of that season, with credit, I think you were Player of the Year that year again, and you came out of that with credit. And I think there was a few Premiership clubs that had seen that you you could handle yourself at this level in amongst a team that really struggled. And I think there's a few clubs that came in for you. Namely, if I remember, it was Reading. By the time that season had ended, obviously the ownership had changed or was due to change. We didn't have a manager who'd been relegated, and things felt a little bit more exciting because of Niall Quinn coming in, but it would have been quite easy for you to leave. But did that ever come close to you leaving to Reading at that point?
I don't think so. No, I didn't see Reading as a bigger club than Sunderland, and I just felt from that season that I had a bit of loyalty and to prove myself again, really, because the season didn't go well, and it's easy for players to say, oh yeah, I done okay, but he didn't, but that wasn't the case. We all wasn't good enough. We all lacked quality. We all lacked something that season. We weren't good enough, and to just leave and jump ship at that point just didn't sit right for me. I wanted to make sure that the following season would come back stronger, and put maybe the doubters, put them to bed, really, rather than jumping ship.
So then comes into the new season. Quinny starts off the season as manager. I think the first 5 games we lost. I think I was at Bury and Southend. It was
that was terrible times.
It wasn't the greatest. Did you, in the first 5 games, did you have any regrets at not considering going to Reading? Or
I did.
Yeah,
definitely. I think we got hammered by Southend 3-1. Then we went to Bury and it's 2-0, something like that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Jesus, what am I doing? Like, when you have an opportunity, I had to trust my gut and hope it would turn around. But at that point, I just couldn't see it. Just couldn't see things improving. We were getting hammered from supporters, and rightly so, because we were so bad at the start of that season, and it was ironic because we turned it around pretty nicely.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we turned it around almost. It was a meteoric rise, wasn't it, in a way? But before we go into sort of Roy Keane coming in, then I think there was an awful lot that was said, I think, from Niall Quinn before Roy Keane had even been appointed, where he said it felt like it was a dressing room that got used to losing. Was that kind of the aftershock of that Premier League season? It was just difficult to get rid of it, I take it, at the start of that season.
Yeah, most certainly, because in the Championship season, the season before we got promoted, we had a winning momentum, and that can go the other way as well. We got in that horrible rut of finding ways to lose, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult. It's easy it probably looks easy from the outside to say you should do this, should do that, but it's very, very difficult to get out of of that kind of zone. But I think a new manager, fresh ideas, fresh way of playing, definitely helped us. If we'd have continued, and there's no disrespect to the job that Niall Quinn was doing, because he was probably doing the manager's job. He was doing everything at the club at the time, and a million jobs all at once. But if that had continued, there might have been different results. But very, very good time to appoint a new manager.
Now, I remember being on the coach back from Bury, despondent as ever, and I think Niall Quinn had gone on the radio and he said, look, like I'm not going to be doing the manager's job for much longer. We've managed to get and as you said, I think it was a world-class name. He said, I've managed to get in.
Yeah, he did.
And so on and so forth. So as a fan, you're starting to dream and think, is it Martin O'Neill, someone like that that's going to come in, who's obviously linked to the job? I think Allardyce was linked. And then it's Roy Keane. Now, you're obviously a central midfielder at that point. I think you were a captain by that point. And I think arguably you could say Roy Keane was the best captain of the 90s Premier League football. So Roy Keane gets announced. Roy Keane walks in the door. How are you feeling on your first meeting with him and the fact that he's been appointed?
Pressure's on. Obviously, he has, he has an aura about him and a sternness in his eyes that his standards are through the roof. And at the time as captain, I have to, I have to deliver that. I have to make sure that's delivered day to day in the dressing room, on the pitch, in the gym, wherever it might be. And exciting, but a time where we're all getting examined almost. So you don't know if we didn't, and no players knew whether we'd be his type of player. He'll bring players in for sure, which he did, and just hoping that you'd be one of those ones to stay in.
When it looks at Roy Keane coming into the club, and I've asked a lot of people a similar question, how does it feel when he walks in? Because I imagine that you grow an extra inch, I suppose, when someone like Roy Keane comes in the club. But I've never really thought about it, and I'm just thinking as we're chatting, you're the captain at that point, and we all know what Roy Keane's standards are like. Did you feel like he was going to expect an even higher standard from yourself because you were the captain? And did that, I suppose, not add pressure to you? Did that kind of add an extra dimension to your game because you felt you had maybe a little even more to prove because he'd be looking to you to be the captain that not he was, but to set the standards and set the example?
Yeah, I think we all had something to prove. We all had failed the season before and the start of this season. So, we was all under the microscope, and and we all had so much to prove to him. But in terms of pressure on me, probably not. I think it was more as a group, as a whole squad of players. We knew the standard had dropped and it had to go back up to a level and probably higher for for Roy to be okay with it. And obviously there'd be some players that didn't cope with the pressure and the intensity that Roy brings, and there's some that do, because his standards are so high.
Talking of Roy Keane's aura and stuff like that, there's obviously one story that's came out, and I've been told the same story myself, but Liam Lawrence was someone who I think he's a great character, did a great job for Sunderland, great job for Stoke. But Liam Lawrence is not the kind of person I think that gets overrode by anyone. I think he'll always speak his mind, and obviously he had a bit of a run-in with Roy, I think, on a particular day. Do you have any memories of that day?
Yeah, a little bit. Liam's a very, very outgoing person and somebody that's infectious to others. And I can't totally remember what it was. Was it to do with a practice game? I can't remember.
I think so. I think he got dropped.
Might have been a practice game that he was on. Was he sub or something for a practice game or something like that?
Yeah, anyway. Something like that. I think he got asked to watch from the sidelines and couldn't get involved. And
then obviously he went straight in the office, and I think it kicked off a little bit. And I don't know how long after that he ended up leaving the club, but I don't know the full details.
I think he went. I think he went the next day. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I knew it was pretty soon.
I think he went the next day. But does that kind of sum Liam Lawrence as a character up? Then he's kind of, if he feels that something's not been done correctly, he'll speak up. Because again, Liam Lawrence is someone that maybe didn't play a big part under Roy Keane because of that, but player that came through with you and really did a good job at Sunderland. Like Liam Lawrence is really well liked here. Does that sum his character up? That if he feels something's wrong, he'll speak up no matter who it is.
Yeah, I think so, and I think most players will if they feel that they've been treated badly, or I think it's important for players to talk, and if they have a problem, go and see the manager, because that's what, if we're going back to Mick McCarthy, if you went and see Mick McCarthy, he'd tell you exactly why and whatever, but Roy Keane was slightly different. He did things slightly different, and his way of managing is different, like everybody else's is. But Liam was adamant that he had a valid point, and I'm sure Roy had his reasons why he did it. But maybe it worked out best for both in the end.
Yeah, you could say that, because Liam obviously went on and had a great career at Stoke and went on and did really well. Talking of what Roy Keane did at the club, there's a lot of people that I suppose it's quite easy to say his standards, the person that he was a winner, and that's what changed. But if you can remember, is there anything in particular that he started doing that just sort of raised the club from being basically a losing mentality to a we must not lose mentality, a complete winning mentality that he brought? Was there anything that he did in specific that you can remember?
Not in particular, but we almost had I wouldn't say it was a fear, but a fear of not doing well and not performing, and we don't want to get on the wrong side of Roy Keane, basically. And obviously, we bought in better players. Better players, helps you win football matches, and nothing in particular, but we just found some rhythm straight away. Started to win games, and you could feel the confidence coming back from what we had previously, and probably with better players now. So, we went on an unbelievable run. I think the last 18 games we won 16.
Yeah, it was a ridiculously good run. One of the best times as being a Sunderland fan, truth be told. It felt like the polar opposite to a year beforehand, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, complete chalk and cheese, but the league's a chalk and cheese in terms of quality and standard of player. Completely different. It's a big jump to the Premier League, and we felt that we got that momentum back, and the confidence was coming back, and like we said, we went on an incredible run, and we had that mentality that if we did go behind, we'd come back and beat teams quite comfortably.
Talking about the players that he brought in, there's two names that sort of stick out, I suppose, off the top of my head. But I was thinking from a midfield perspective, you had Dwight Yorke that came in, who obviously one of the Premier League's greatest strikers, but by that point he turned into almost like a number 4. And you also brought in Graham Kavanagh more or less as soon as Roy Keane walked in the door. What did Dwight Yorke and Graham Kavanagh bring to the dressing room that maybe wasn't there before? Because if I remember rightly, they were quite pivotal in turning things around, and not just the quality on the pitch, so the quality off the pitch as well.
Yeah, I think they clearly obviously bought a Premier League experience in terms of Yorkie coming in. They'd won the Premier League, won trophies. International players coming into the squad, and when people like that come into the squad, and for me personally being in a position where probably both could play, I had to then step up again and raise my barrier and get to the standard where that I was picked over them. But in terms of a character, Yorkie come in, he's so chilled out, so laid back, loves a laugh and a joke, and you would never know that he'd won so many trophies and been such a legend of a striker in the Premier League. The way he come in the dressing room, he was just a normal guy with so much quality, so much humour, and someone I really got on well with and learnt a lot off.
I think Yogi a few times has mentioned about being interested in particular jobs. I think Sunderland a few years ago, he's been very vocal about wanting a job at Aston Villa, and I think a lot of people, maybe even when I haven't asked about Dwight Yorke, have mentioned how great he was for the young lads, how great he was in the dressing room. Are you quite surprised that no one's taken a chance on Dwight Yorke yet and given him a bit of a chance based on what he was like in the dressing room towards the end of his career, in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, how do you gain coaching and managerial experience if you don't get the opportunities? And obviously I'm in the same position now, but so Yorkie's is a much bigger name than me and won many trophies in the Premier League and in Europe, but I don't know what he's like as a coach. Doesn't mean because he's been a top player that he's a good coach. I don't know what sort of coach he is. I'd imagine he'd be infectious. He'll be enthusiastic, but it's tough. It's hard for me to say what sort of coach or manager he would be. But in terms of opportunities, I think there's a lot of ex-players and players that have had a lot of experience on the pitch and worked with many top managers that just need an opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. Talking of that season, now you'll obviously not remember it. in the way that I did, but the Quinn and Phillips years, as we'll refer to it as, was probably the best time to be a Sunderland fan in recent memory. It just felt like the whole place was united. But if I was to put a comparison as to Sunderland as a city feeling as good as it did at that point, what's the nearest it's been? Most definitely sort of around that era, the Sheffield United away, Burnley at home. When you're playing at Sunderland and the whole city is like united and you feel like you're on the crest of a wave, how good of a place is Sunderland to play?
The best. I mean, the night that we beat Burnley 3-2. I think it was a Friday night. It might have been. Yeah. I think it was a Friday night. Carlos scores that worldy goal, and the place is bouncing. There's no better place to play football when the stadium's rocking. You got a bunch of players that's giving the club and supporters everything they've got on the pitch. There's no better feeling. I mean, we went away to, was it the season? We went away to Southampton and won as well, I think.
Yeah.
Graham might have scored a good goal in that game.
Easter Monday, I think it was, and first time we went top of the league. Yeah, that was a great day. That was, yeah. So
yeah. And then there was Leicester. We went away at Leicester and beat them.
New Year's Day.
Yeah.
I was severely hungover that day, Dean. I've got to be honest with you.
I got a feeling the weather weren't too clever that day either. But yeah, but some great memories, some great moments. What a place when it's rocking.
Do you know, you'll get sometimes people outside of Sunderland will sometimes discuss how difficult of a place Sunderland must be because of how demanding the fans are. And I think a lot of the North East gets that, to be honest. You've played at Sunderland when we've been rock bottom. You've played at Sunderland when we've been flying absolutely high. Do you think that there's such a thing as, not pressure at Sunderland, but do you think it's quite an easy excuse for some people to make to say that Sunderland's too hard of a place to play? Do you think you've got to kind of be a bit more broad-shouldered and just take on how good of a place it can be because you've been part of it?
Yeah, I think if Sunderland came in for a certain player, they have to make sure that they're equipped to play at that club. It's a big club that demands high standards and high performance on the pitch, and if you're not ready to take a little bit of criticism when things don't go well, then that's not the club for you. You have to be strong, mentally strong, like you say, broad shoulders, be able to take the good with the bad, because it's easy to take the good, really, really easy. But when things don't go so well for 1, 2, 3 weeks, then you have to take it on board and learn from it and put it right. And that's a club that demands every week, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and you get criticised. But that's football. That will happen for many, many years to come, and people will criticise players. But as a player, you have to be able to deal with it. And it's easy to make an excuse to say, "Oh, it's a tough place to go." The fans get, they slaughter you when you're getting beat. Well, don't every club in the country have a go at players if they don't win a game? Of course they do, because they want to win. They're passionate. So if you're not prepared for that, then I don't think football and most certainly Sunderland probably isn't for them.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Just before we go on to the Premier League years, I suppose at the end of that season, I suppose it's a little different for you because you'd been on the open top bus. You'd done it a few years previous with Mick McCarthy and a lot of the lads, but you were captain by this point, and Roy Keane decided not to have one. He said that Sunderland should be aiming higher than winning the league. I think the likes of Darren Ward, it was probably the only trophy he'd won in his career, or title he'd won in his career, and he missed out on that. How did you feel when Roy Keane decided to cancel it? Did you understand it, or was it a little bit disappointing?
I think obviously Roy's had, he's had that much success in his time at Man United. Who, once they won a trophy, it's like, right, what's the next one? They don't have time to celebrate trophies or even Champions League wins. They say, right, that's kind of in the cabinet. Let's go after the next one. But we weren't a club could do that. What's the next trophy we was going to win? God knows. So it's slightly disappointing, but he's the manager. He makes those big decisions, and we go with it. But like I say, for people that we don't win many trophies at that that particular squad, and the players I know, obviously Yorkie did, and the manager did, but obviously for Ward, it would have been his first and only one, maybe, I don't know, but it'd have been disappointing for him. But we have to respect the manager.
When we went back up that next season, talking about great moments at the stadium, like the Burnley game was amazing, but the Spurs game on the opening day of the season, probably even better. How good was it to be part of the squad that day when Michael Chopra, of all people, put the ball in the back of the net in the 92nd minute?
Yeah, 92nd minute for a 1-0 first game of the season, Premier League. Having failed in the Premier League, 2 years prior to that, it was huge. It was huge for the club, for the fans, for the players. It was the stadium when Chops put that in the net, the whole ground erupted, and there's no better place to play when it's going like that.
Terrific day, absolutely terrific day, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And I think
I'm sure you had a few pints after that, lad.
Oh, one or two, mate. Yeah. I had an enjoyable night. And I remember that I think it was the Tuesday night. We went to Birmingham, and Stern John, I think, scored after Roy O'Donovan sat on the goalkeeper. So the next few days were quite decent as well, if I remember correctly. One thing that sort of really probably sticks out about that season is the amount of late goals we scored. Obviously, Liam Miller at Middlesbrough sticks out. Chopra, I spoke at Spurs. Stern John scoring in the last minute. We scored so many goals, like right at the depth. And I was speaking to, it was Mike Clegg, who was the fitness coach, I think, at that time. And I asked him about that period, and he talked about like the stuff they did on the fitness pitch, or the stuff that you all did to make sure you had like sort of bursts of energy that you could keep and give like an energetic burst at the end of the game. What necessarily was it that happened that season in training, to your memory, that meant we were just so fit and we could win games in the 90th minute?
I just think we had more belief. We had belief when the games were level or we were behind. We just had a belief that, and we had good legs in the team. We had fit players. And that that obviously helps with the sports science, all the work they do, but you have to live right off the pitch. You have to do everything you can to be as fit as you can, because if you're not in the Premier League, which we weren't prepared last time, and we made sure we were prepared this time, we were fitter and stronger than ever. And in the final parts of games, we seem to come up with the goods.
Talking about that season was great. Team spirit was fab. We had a load of good lads. Like, I think Andy Reid came in the January. The team spirit just continued on. And then I suppose from a fan, the following summer was actually quite exciting, because we were signing players, like big name players, like Djibril Cissé for one of them, who actually did a good job. But the likes of Pascal Chimbonda came in, El Hadj Diouf, maybe people that were not the right characters for something from the outside looking in. Did the dressing room change an awful lot when they came in? And in particular, I mean, Chimbonda and El Hadj Diouf.
Possibly, yeah. But I think when you've obviously stayed in the league 1 year, and you have to invest to improve. And obviously at the time that Roy brought in Djibril and Pascal, and I think Steed come in as well.
Yeah, Steed came in also. Wonderful Steed.
But different players, different egos. Completely different to what we were used to. So this was a different dimension to the changing room. Huge ego, huge self-belief in Djibril and Pascal. They believed that they were coming there to improve the team, to improve themselves, and probably thought it maybe be a stepping stone. I don't know, but I think every player, you know, that comes in are different. I mean, the manager, he would have to manage me completely different to what he did Gibral or Pascal. I don't need much managing. You know what you're going to get from me day in, day out. But Gibral he's completely different. He needs a different type of relationship with a manager, different type of way of speaking to him, way of treating him. And look, that's fine, because that's a part of the manager's job is to make sure the environment is right for everybody, but not everybody gets treated the same. You have to understand the person and treat the person, how he's going to feel most comfortable and get the best out of him. And Pascal was another one that was the same. So it's probably more difficult time for the manager dealing with the different types of characters that he brought in.
Yeah, huge egos. And obviously, I think I chatted to Phil Barsley a few years ago, and he told me the story about Pascal Chimbonda not wanting to head the ball when he came in with these braids. And I think that probably sums up the difference in the likes of, say, Phil Barsley, who'd been there the year previous to Chimbonda, and Sunderland as a football club requires definitely, I think, a certain type of character. We beat Newcastle that season, though. One of the best games I remember at the stadium, like an electric atmosphere. Djibril Cissé got the first one. Obviously, Kieran Richardson banged in
the free kick.
Oh, unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, talking about goals, that's iconic. But then we went on this really weird run where I think we lost 7 and 8 out of nowhere, which was just really weird because we'd had a decent start of the season. We beat Newcastle and then we went backwards. During that period, could you feel Roy Keane ready to leave the club, or did it still come as quite a shock when he left?
No, I didn't see it coming. He's a man that's used to winning football matches on a regular basis, and that's probably the first time in his managerial career that we couldn't find a way to win, to get out of that rut. It was a real disappointing time. We couldn't find any form. After such a high at Newcastle, we almost thought, right, we beat Newcastle, that's almost job done. And that's not the mentality that we wanted or the manager expected. And we just couldn't find a way. And but I didn't ever see the manager leaving at that point.
Were you disappointed when he left, or did you kind of understand it?
Yeah, disappointed, of course, because he played a big part in some successful times of my career at the club. But everyone has their reasons, and you have to respect them and move on.
I spoke to Kenwyne Jones a few weeks back, and I asked him about Roy Keane, and I described how his personality was probably completely different from the outside looking into Roy Keane's, and he sort of stopped me in my tracks, and he said, no, actually, like, Roy Keane's far different to what the media perception of him is. He's not hot-head, he's not consistently flying off the handle. Yes, he can, but he's actually quite a relaxed, sort of thought out, doesn't speak that often, only speaks when he needs to kind of person. Would you agree with that assessment of him? Is he a lot more relaxed than the media would like to think he is?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. When he speaks, people listen. And look, when you have meetings or whatever, and he speaks, everybody has his full attention. But he's not one to. He didn't have too many ranting and raving episodes when we were there with him. But he's chilled. But he has such high standards, and he expects them every day. And if you deliver those, then you have no problem.
Talking about moments when he has flew off the handle now, I think I'm quite aware that people need to sell books, and I think I'm quite aware that things can be dramatized because that's kind of what happens. But Dwight York obviously spoke in his book about an infamous dressing room rant when he kung fu kicked the tactics board down during the draw with Northampton, and apparently he attacked you, had a bit of a go at you in the dressing room. How true is that? Did it get that heated between you both, or is that probably a little bit dramatised?
Yeah, it is dramatised. He didn't attack me, no. Jesus Christ. Nah. Yeah, no, he didn't attack me. But look, we were, I think we were 1-0 down, or it was 1-1. I can't remember what it was, but he went absolutely mad. And this is probably the first time we'd really seen it. It smashed in the tactics board, and we thought, fuck, we're in for a bollock in here. And lads were sat there with their heads down and feeling sorry for themselves like you do. And I can't remember what happened, but I can't remember how I was sitting, but he kind of just clipped my hand. Nothing didn't come at me steaming with a right hook, and we started fighting on the floor and that. Nah, but yeah, that why he come for me, don't know. But no, I had no problem with it. No big deal. Because he's the manager, he can criticise as much as he wants and have a go at who he wants when he wants, and you have to respect that and move on. And because if you have any grudges in this game, then you're struggling.
I was going to say, is that kind of the Roy Keane school of management? You could have a big heated argument and kick a tactics board down, but if you prove yourself in training on the Monday, then you're not necessarily his best friend, but you've got his respect back. Was that kind of his style of management in short?
Yeah, I think it's clear that once whatever goes on, and then all forgotten the next day, and that's how it was.
How much did the dressing room change when Ricky Sabrasia came in? Because I mean, we limped over the line a little bit, probably because Newcastle were just worse than us that season, thank God. Yeah. But it did feel like it had gone from being Roy Keane to, I think Sabrasia was a friendly coach, so to speak.
Yeah, completely opposite. Yeah, completely opposite in terms of how they managed the team and the group. But like I say, everybody is different, and Roy wasn't there any longer. And, we gave everything to Ricky, really.
Just before, obviously, we talk about you sort of leaving the club. I think, if I could be wrong here, but I'm sure there was rumours of you being wanted by Stoke in the sort of January time. And I think, we spoke off air yesterday about how much of a loyal servant you were. And in hindsight, now it's been over 10 years since you left. Everyone said the same thing when I said you were coming on the show yesterday. Loyal servant, loved him, great player, good captain, underrated, all those kind of platitudes. But if I remember correctly, you got a little bit of stick towards that last 6 months of your time at Sunderland. Did that hurt because you'd given so much to the club?
Yeah, I did get some stick. I remember the Bolton game at home. I think they booed every time I touched the ball. Throughout the whole game, which they're rightly so. It's it's their club, but they had to. It's for me. It was bittersweet, really, because I had so much good times there and enjoyed playing. For the shirt and. Gave everything that I had. Yes, I was limited in areas. Of course I was. But yeah, I received a lot of stick that game. And I think I come out after the game and a bit naive of me just to say, it didn't help the team. It didn't help me individually playing. But, you live and learn from those sort of mistakes. And again, I got hammered for that. But look, I don't see it as I don't have any regrets of what I done there or how I handled it. I felt that's how I felt at the time, and it was disappointing, but yeah, it's football, and I mean, it probably was the right time for me to leave. I think the fans kind of knew that, I knew it, and it's time for somebody else to come in.
So looking back, sort of 10 years since you left the club, then. How would you summarise your time at Sunderland now that you can sit back and reflect on your career in that particular period in your career?
I reflect on it is a really good time for me. A time where I was challenged and I overcome challenges. I won trophies there. Yes, we had some bad times, of course, like most people do, but No, I do reflect on it as it was a wonderful place to play football. Lovely place to live. All the people around the area, very friendly. I got real soft spot for Sunderland for sure. Yes, it ended a little bit sour, but that's football, and but I still really it places a big part in my career, in my life, really.
And final question, completely out of the box, and I've started chucking this in at the end of a few of them, but you were at Sunderland a fairly long time. If you had to pick one of them, who was the best player you played alongside during your time at Sunderland?
Oh, that's a bit unfair. That's some good players. Look, we weren't a team with the biggest names in terms of players, but I think the time when I was there, that we were the best players. George McCarthy was some player. When him and Julio were linking up on the left, almost unstoppable. Really, we just wanted to get the ball to them too, and they do the rest really. Obviously, that first season, Stewie was our talisman. And then you got the likes of Kenwyn Jones comes in, Dwight York. It's unfair to pick any really, but even Carlos Edwards come in, done unbelievably well. Lots of good players, and bless him, Liam Miller. So much talent, so many good players.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenwyn said Steve Malbronk.
Yeah, technically wise, probably, yeah. But I think for me, probably at the club when I was there in successful times, I'd arguably say Julio or George, probably.
Good choice. Yeah, Julio was never a bad choice. And George, first time around, I absolutely agree with you. Shame it didn't work out.
Yeah, the second. The first time round, he was unbelievable.
Player of the year, I believe, at one point.
Well deserved.
Yeah, great player. Apparently a very angry man, George McCartney. Apparently he was always consistently angry.
Jesus Christ, yeah. Nothing's ever right for him. Nothing's ever. The ball's a yard in front of him. It should have been, at his feet. But,
I think
what a season he had that year. Wow.
I once tried to get him on this show, and I think I got warned by someone else. Don't bother.
To be fair, he's a miserable bugger. But
Dean, thanks as much as always.
Thank you very much.